In today's programme, we focus on digestive health, what to do to enhance its function, and the steps to take when it's not working so well. You know, most of us at some point may have experienced an upset stomach or had episodes of indigestion. But research indicates that poor digestive health can negatively impact our well-being. And so today our team of health professionals are going to share some tips about how to boost digestive health, the foods to eat, the exercises to take, and how to live a balanced life which helps. In the studio with us today is Dr. Chidi, our lifestyle specialist in lifestyle medicine. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Great to have you. And as usual, let's go first to our mailbox so we can read the letter for today.
Sarah is a 28-year-old female who describes herself as an aspiring career woman. She has written in with the following health concerns.
I wonder whether you could help me. I'm experiencing episodes of stomach cramps which occur at various times of the day. My doctor says it could be a touch of irritable bowel syndrome. However, I'm not convinced, as I also have other symptoms such as heartburn, burping and abdominal discomfort after meals. I don't tend to have regular meals times because of my work shifts. Additionally, as I'm studying in order to make a transition in my career, I sometimes eat late into the evening or early hours if I'm up studying. These sometimes include high energy snacks to keep me awake while studying.
So as you've heard, Sarah, in the letter, she's very concerned about some of the symptoms she's having. Could this be irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS as it's sometimes referred to?
It certainly could be IBS. The thing we have to try and address is what actually is IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome. And the main focus really for the diagnosis is not actually in the bowels, it's actually a bit higher up in the brain. Not to say that it's all in the mind, it is a real illness, but actually it starts with our stress levels. Most people who have irritable bowel syndrome have heightened stress levels, which means that their bowels then react. Our bowels are sometimes considered the second brain because there's so much nervous tissue around there. But if I told you, I want you to go and now speak to an audience of a few thousand people, you get butterflies in your tummy. Well, irritable bowel syndrome is almost like a chronic symptom of having butterflies in your tummy all the time. So it doesn't settle. Your stress levels raise the sensitivity of your bowels. Now with that sensitivity will come sensitivity to maybe wheat or apples or oranges or something. So there would be certain foods that come out that trigger the IBS, but that's not the root cause. The root cause is actually the stress levels. So everything we can do to get on top of the stress will lower the sensitivity of your bowels and get rid of the symptoms.
That's very interesting. And actually in the letter, Sarah is saying that she's not quite convinced even that it's irritable bowel. You know, her doctor's suggesting it might be, but she's not quite sure. What else could it be?
And that brings out a very interesting point. You know, the doctor really should question her about, well, you know, what do you think it is? What are you concerned about? Because at that point you can discover really what your patient is really worried about. Sometimes people come in with a headache and you think, well, why have they come in with a headache? Why have they come to see a doctor? And actually they're worried about a brain tumour or something. But it's important to explore their ideas about what they think they've got. Now, if it's not irritable bowel, then it could be other things. So given the symptoms, it could be things like gastric ulcers or gastritis, which is just an irritation of the lining. If that persists, it can lead to an ulcer whereby the actual mucosa of the stomach is actually burnt through with the acid that we produce. And that will need a different type of treatment.
That's interesting. Now, we've often heard terms like inflammatory bowel disease. What's the difference between irritable bowel disease and inflammatory bowel disease?
Right. Irritable bowel disease is, as we've said, it's almost like a nervous response to what's going on in your mind. Inflammatory bowel disease takes it several steps further. For example, Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, those are inflammatory bowel diseases whereby when you look at the bowel, they are ulcerated, they're bleeding. With Crohn's disease, that can happen anywhere in the GI tract, in the gastrointestinal tract. With ulcerative colitis, it tends to happen at the tail end, at the lower part of your gastrointestinal tract. But what's the cause? The main cause for example, in Crohn's disease, is it's an autoimmune disease, which means your antibodies are attacking you at different places in your bowel, causing that response. Similarly with ulcerative colitis.
Some good information there. Now, let's look at the treatment options that are available for these conditions.
Well, yes, that's a good place to start. Why don't we start actually with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Now, normally, if you have irritable bowel syndrome, some of the milder treatments you can be given are things like peppermint oil and peppermint tea, chamomile tea. These things can actually mildly relax your stomach and your gastrointestinal tract. If that's not working, your GP may want to prescribe you some antispasmodics. Again, those are just to lower the amount of, let's say, sensitivity of your bowels. But really, when we go back to the cause of the problem, which is stress, the best way to deal with irritable bowel syndrome is to address the stressful issues in your life. Once you address those issues and deal with them, could be with cognitive behavioral therapy, counselling, or getting to the root of your problems, you will find that the sensitivity of your bowels goes down absolutely automatically. So rather than just pinpointing certain foods that will trigger your IBS, because they will, because your bowels are at a heightened sensitivity, get to the root cause, bring down the sensitivity, and less problems will occur, and less symptoms will occur. Well, let's address some of the other problems that she was concerned about. For example, gastric ulcers. Now, a gastric ulcer actually is produced by the acid in your stomach wearing away at the lining of that stomach. Sometimes that can be caused by a bacteria called H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori. And if you take an antibiotic, that bacteria goes away, and so the cause of the ulcer goes away too. But also we have to factor in stress again. Stress makes you produce more acid. The less stress you have, the less acid you'll produce, the less chance you'll have of gastritis or of getting a gastric ulcer. Now, in terms of inflammatory bowel disease, as I've said, it's mainly autoimmune related. So how do we reduce the amount of our own antibodies that are attacking ourselves? Again, stress is very important. Stress brings out the crisis in these things. But also some of the things that we eat can potentiate those antibodies. The biggest things that we eat to potentiate those autoantibodies are dairy proteins, sometimes wheat proteins as well. If you have lots of refined sugar, it will trigger it too. So if you can get on top of those things, making sure you're getting more relaxation and you're not having too much stress in your life, it will actually reduce the symptoms. There are people now who have been years free of Crohn's disease without ever having to have an operation, just by changing their lifestyle.
Wow, that's amazing. And those food hints is an excellent place for us to go now to the kitchen, where Angelette Muller, our nutrition consultant, is going to take us through the foods that can positively impact our digestive health.
And the main foods we have here are carrots, green beans, tender stem green broccoli, mushrooms and spring onion. And to flavour, we have options of garlic, chilli and ginger. And also we'll be using soy sauce to add the salt, and then we have olive oil as well. So this is a vegetable stir fry on a bed of whole grain rice, and it makes up about 2 to 3 portions of your daily vegetable requirement. So peel the carrots and then chop them up into thin sticks. This will help to ensure the cooking is quick. We then chop off the ends of the green beans and chop into small units as well. Thinly slice the tender stem broccoli, and here you can see me taking out the inner part of the chilli, because it's really the chilli seeds that give a lot of the heat to the chilli, so we're removing them. And then we're thinly slicing them up just to add a little bit of flavour to the dish, and chopping them into very fine slices. It's mild chilli pepper we're using here. You then want to chop up the garlic as well into very thin slices. This will add to the flavour as well. And then we're chopping it up into even finer slices, ready to be stir fried. The easy way to peel ginger is just to get a spoon and peel it, and then we're grating it up on this grater. This will add the oriental flavour to the stir fry. And so everything's nicely chopped up into small parts so that it can fry very quickly, because the whole benefit of stir fry is the quick cook, which helps to ensure that the nutrients stay inside the vegetables. So we're starting off with the spring onions, stir frying these for a very small period of time. You can see we're cooking it in a wok, and woks are designed to cook vegetables or foods very quickly, and this means that minimum amount of our nutrients are going to be lost in the process. Adding in the mushrooms and the carrots. You can see it's already very colourful, and all this colour is going to really add to your health. And then we have the chilli, garlic and ginger. I'm going to stir fry that in with a bit of soy sauce. You don't want to overcook it. You want the vegetables to still look bright, green, orange, and this will help when you're serving it for, overall appeal. Digestive health is very important to us. They say the stomach is the second brain, and it really is. It has its own nervous supply. It contains 80% of the immune system. It even produces the majority of serotonin in the body. That's the feel-good neurotransmitter or brain chemical that helps to make us less likely to be depressed. So why do people have so many digestive problems? It's because of poor diet, high stress levels, and often not exercising enough. And as a result of that, they may have bloating, indigestion, flatulence, belching. All of these symptoms show imbalances in our digestive health. So how do we improve our digestive health? Sometimes it's looking at ways just to calm the system down. Like gluten-free foods can often be more tolerated than breads and wheat pastas for people who suffer from lots of bloating. And so you can have things like rice noodles or rice. Some people don't tolerate rice that well, so they could always replace the rice with quinoa or millet or buckwheat. These are all types of grains that are gluten-free and help to calm the digestive system down. In addition to choosing a gluten-free grain, you can also go for vegetables that are less fibrous, that are easier to digest. So you can have things like carrots or courgettes or bean sprouts or bok choy, which is like the Chinese vegetable. All of those things are easier to digest for some people. So if they tend to have a lot of bloating for a time, they can ensure that they have vegetables that are easier to digest. And one of the important things for eating and healthy digestion is chewing your food properly. So you want to chew it well because that stimulates your salivary glands that produce the enzymes to break the food down. Because often it's insufficient enzymes, which are like little scissors that cut the food into tiny pieces. It's because of not enough enzymes that you tend to get symptoms such as bloating. So what we have in this specific recipe are vegetables that are a bit easier to digest and also a gluten-free food made from rice.
Wow, a lot of information there. I particularly like the addition of the garlic and the ginger. Lovely, I've got to try that. Now, Angelette spoke quite a bit about the gluten-free recipe that she was making. How significant is that for digestive health?
It is very significant because anybody who is at risk or may have the diagnosis of irritable bowel syndrome should, by a matter of course, be actually investigated for celiac disease. Celiac disease is where we're unable to properly digest and process wheat protein, which is gluten. So it is not right for somebody to just have a diagnosis of, oh, you might have a touch of IBS without actually having been tested for celiac disease too.
That's interesting. And she spoke also a lot about eating late into the night and snacking, and she's up late studying. So there's that anxiety with getting her studies done. And she also indicated that she didn't have a proper meal. How does that add to the mix of symptoms she's experiencing?
Well, it goes on top of all the other stress symptoms. We've said that stress really is at the heart of most of these bowel diseases. Now, if you're under stress and you're not eating right, and you're eating at all sorts of times of the day and night, that just adds to the insult and injury to your bowels. If you really want to help your bowels overcome all of this stress, as well as getting rid of the stress in your life, give yourself regular meal intervals.
Now, let's talk about what people are saying in terms of digestive health. There's so many ideas out there in the market and so many practices. The first one I'd like to put to you is this idea of cleansing, washing out the bowel.
Right. Well, cleansing. Our bodies are designed naturally to cleanse. We have these wonderful organs, one of them called the liver. We have the kidneys, we have our skin, we have our lungs, we have our bowels themselves. They are perfectly designed to cleanse us if we feed ourselves with the right fuel and if we give ourselves enough water. We don't actually need to then go out and get some treatment, a cleansing treatment that should just wash out the body. Actually, the food that we're supposed to eat, the fruits, the vegetables, which has lots of fibre in it, water, which is the perfect cleansing material for your body, if you have enough of that, you will be cleansed.
Okay. Now, the other one that is quite debatable is juicing. Surely, if she's experiencing all these symptoms and she's not able to eat properly, lovely fruits, just juicing them, it gets down quickly. It's high nutrition, isn't it? Quickly in the system.
We want everything quick, and that's the problem. We are designed to eat fruit and vegetables. That's what our bodies are designed to do. We were not designed just to drink loads of high energy, high nutrient fluids. Okay, it doesn't matter if they're the purest juice in the world, your body requires that you receive that or those nutrients in the form of an orange, an apple, a grapefruit or whatever. That's the perfect way that we take food in. You know, we'll never really fully understand the full benefits of fruits and vegetables to us because the way they're put together are perfectly designed for us. By juicing them, getting rid of all the fibre, actually that fibre helps with the cleansing, by the way. So you're getting rid of it and you're just taking the high concentration of so-called nutrients plus sugar. And that concentration of sugar does not do you a lot of good.
So there you have it, the cleansing and the juicing. Well, I'd like to bring up another one, the probiotics. Surely probiotics is good for digestive health. What do you think?
Probiotics, well, your bowels are filled with probiotics. Okay, we have, very interesting fact, we have more bacteria in our bowels, more bacteria cells in our bowels than we do of our own cells in our own body. When we've got about 50 trillion cells in our own body, we have almost 10 times that amount of bacteria cells in our gut. Now, if you feed them with the right food, if you feed them with nice, whole plant-based foods, eaten whole, that bacteria will be good bacteria for the rest of your body. Now, if you're daily at the fast food joint, eating all kinds of high sugar, high fat types of food, then the bacteria in your gut will also change. And they will not be the right bacteria for it, not the right bacteria that produces your, for example, vitamin B12 and all the other things that you need.
So having heard that information, let's go back to Sarah's letter and see how we could apply some of this. So she's having all these symptoms. The doctor has said it could be irritable bowel. Say, for instance, she was watching this show and she looked at her food and what she was having. She still had the symptoms. What next?
Okay, the most important thing for her is to see her doctor, to be screened for celiac disease, to be screened for things like gastric ulcers, make sure there's nothing serious going on. But I can guarantee at the heart of everything that we've heard, she will really need to sort out her stress levels, and that will be done with talking to somebody about it and certain exercises she can do.
Now let's talk a little bit now about how exercise impacts the digestive system.
Yeah, normally people don't really make that connection, but actually there's a huge connection between the two. When we exercise, we know that our stress levels go down. We release these wonderful endorphins that make us feel wonderful and better. Well, that is good treatment actually for our bowels. We have said that things like irritable bowel syndrome, gastritis, ulcers, inflammatory bowel disease have a stress component to all of them. So the more you can do to relieve that stress and diminish the amount of stress hormones we're releasing into the system, the better off your bowels are going to be. Your stomach is going to produce less acid. Your sensitivity of your gut will be actually decreased. So all of those symptoms start to go away. So exercise is just a cheap, simple way to get there. But there are other ways to get there. So for example, we have emotional things that we need to get on top of. I mean, I mentioned that sometimes you can think about having cognitive behavioral therapy. Why should we have that? Well, sometimes we think things in the wrong way.
Yeah.
We think things in a destructive way. So we always wanted to get people back, we wanted to get revenge on certain things. Well, actually being able to forgive, learning to forgive, learning to let go of certain issues for your own health
Yes.
is essential for us. You know, that's why Jesus asks us to forgive, actually, not so
That's
much
right.
for the other person,
Yeah.
but for us, for our own health. And it doesn't just affect our heart and our mind, it actually affects our bowels too. You know, you can be sitting there stewing over something for years, actually.
Yeah.
And actually, it's taken away your own health. It's taken away your own peace of mind. You're unable to eat, sleep, and function properly. So trying to learn to forgive is a major, major thing.
No, that's key. So we've talked about the foods we eat, the exercise, the levels of stress, forgiveness. Now, one of the things Sarah mentioned in her letter was staying up late at night. Talk us a little bit through that. You know, sleep, relaxation. How does that impact on your digestive system?
In previous episodes, we've talked about how sleep is so beneficial, especially to the heart and the cardiovascular system, because it helps to repair the body. But when you're asleep, also you're able to allow your bowels to rest a bit. When you're not awake and you're not eating, your bowels have complete peace and they're able to just regenerate and recuperate. The more we can do that, the better our bowels will be. If you're eating late at night, especially when you're eating high energy foods, those high energy foods always contain lots of sugar, sometimes an awful lot of wheat too. That doesn't allow your bowels to rest properly, so your bowels are working quite heavily overnight, which is why sometimes you can wake up and just still feel tired because your bowels have been working so much. But over years, that means that you're just not getting enough rest periods. And if you don't have enough rest periods, your bowels will be damaged more than if you had enough rest.
Wow, thank you so much. That was an excellent discussion today. Well, there you have it. That's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found the information useful and can share it with someone else. As usual, I'd like to end with this wonderful scripture in John 3:2, which says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you will prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." Goodbye for now, and may God bless you.